He wasn't looking for trouble. He was trying to do the right thing. In a single moment, he went from hero to suspect, from lifesaver to criminal. A child's life was pulled back from the edge, but instead of gratitude, all eyes turned on him. His skin became his sentence, his courage twisted into guilt. What happens when doing good isn't enough to protect you? And what does it tell us about the world we're in? This is the narrative they didn't want to hear. It was one of those days that left your feet throbbing, but your heart quietly proud. She double-shifted at a local restaurant, forever darting between tables with a smile, masking the weight of unpaid bills at home. To most, she was invisible, the just waitress who kept the water glasses full and the orders out on time. But beneath the unassuming routine was a woman who bore strength like armor, even in a world that too frequently reminded her she was different. That night, while she was tying her apron and walking toward a table she wished someone else had claimed, she had no concept that she was entering a moment that would challenge more than her patience. Because what was to come wouldn't merely be an act of serving food, but a revelation of the fault lines of power, privilege, and prejudice in front of her very eyes. The dining room pulsed with soft music and manicured laughter, the laughter of those who never question what the bills of tomorrow will be. She glided between tables quickly, stabilizing trays with one hand and juggling the burden of fatigue with the other. When she arrived at their table, she saw them immediately. An older gentleman with the unmistakable demeanor of privilege, his sharply pressed suit exuding authority, and sitting alongside him, a boy in a wheelchair, observing the room with big, inquisitive eyes. She welcomed them as she welcomed everyone, warmly, but she felt it almost at once. The biting keenness in the man's eyes, the way his eyes rested on her skin before drifting away as if her company was an annoyance. She had encountered the look often, too many times to count. Courteous words on the surface, a condescending assessment beneath. Yet she persisted, unwilling to let it hurt. As the evening progressed, the boy's eyes kept drifting to hers, not in criticism, but in something more innocent, curiosity, even delight. As the gentle notes of a violin crept into the atmosphere, she saw him thumping his hand lightly on the rim of the table, tapping to the rhythm. And before she knew it, she bent down and whispered encouragement, showing his fingers into the rhythm. The boy's face came to life, his entire body vibrating with energy. For an instant, the restaurant disappeared. It was music, liberty, and a child who felt understood. But the spell broke. The father's chair screeched abrasively over the floor. His voice, deep but with steel in it, carved through the room. He didn't need to speak much, just the clenching jaw, the glare that said everything. How dare you? He yanked his son's hand away, spitting something bitter under his breath. Discussions around them stumbled. People turned, glancing, eyes flicking between interest and unease. Heat flooded to her face. Her sanctuary room, always where she served, seemed a stage upon which she was being tried, not for the work she had done, but for what she was. She felt her chest constrict as the father's glare pierced her, an implicit threat intended to push her back into silence. But the boy wasn't finished. His shaking but resolute hand extended again. He needed to keep going, needed to dance on his own terms. And for one moment, she wavered. Should she move away, apologize, recede into the shadows as she'd been taught? Or should she dare everything to pay tribute to the happiness of a child who only wished to be free? The room held its breath. The father's glare intensified, and in the delicate moment of silence, she understood this was no longer merely a dance. This was about dignity, about the unwritten lines drawn by privilege and prejudice, and crossing them could rewrite everything. The silence was oppressive. All eyes in the restaurant seemed to rest on her, but none more so than his. The billionaire father leaned forward across the table, his voice icy enough to make the air around them chill. With every statement, he didn't simply reject her, he minimized her. To him, she wasn't a woman with value, but a servant who had overstepped her bounds, a presence he felt was not worthy of touching his son. The boy's small hand continued to shake in the air, reaching, pleading for freedom, for touch. She felt the desperation of him, and it shredded something deep within her. The room felt like a cage, the gleaming walls, the clinking glasses, the whispers swirling like vultures. She wasn't just facing the face of a man of means. She was facing everything he stood for: power, arrogance, and a sense that dignity belonged to some and not to all. Her gut instinct yelled to step back, to say sorry and disappear into thin air. But then she saw his son, his delicate form trembling not with frailty, but with the strength of rebelling against the very darkness sitting next to him. And in that brief moment, she made up her mind. She put her hand softly into the boy's, leading him again into the beat of the music. His face glowed, brighter than any chandelier in that room. It was joy, it was freedom, and it was rebellion. The father's chair slammed back, his rage bursting into open expression. Guests gasped, some drawing back, others standing in strained silence. His hand came down hard on the table, eyes blazing with rage, not against her deed, but against the reality it exposed. His authority couldn't stifle his own offspring's happiness, nor could it annihilate her humanity. And in that instant, the balance of the room changed. What had begun as a dance move had evolved into something much larger, a clash between prejudice and pride, between silence and bravery. And still, the question lingered, heavy and oppressive. Would this act of disobedience mean that she lost everything? The boy's laughter was cut short as the father hauled him off, anger etched in each gesture. The waitress stood still, heart racing, 100 stares weighing her down. No one intervened. No one spoke. The evening passed, plates removed, wine refilled, but nothing was ever the same. She worked out her shift in silence, hands unshaking even as her soul shook. At home, late in the evening after the restaurant lights had gone out, the memory lingered. Not only the hurt of shame, but the glint of happiness, of liberty, of rebellion against a world that sought to belittle him. One moment had granted him something his father's money could never: pride. And she was reminded that even smallest acts of bravery can be heard louder than a silent night. But the reality is, her tale isn't hers alone. It's the story of countless more. Those who serve, who struggle, who live beneath the veil of prejudice each day. It's the story of the millions reminded again and again that skin color could determine whether your goodness is embraced or rejected, whether your humanness is honored or deigned. And so we are left with a question, one that echoes long after the music fades. How many more seconds like this will go by in silence before we finally reach out and look at each other, not for what tears us apart, but for what makes us human?